are about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So we have some breaking news. We were told this morning that reportedly Elon Musk is going to be leaving Doge. Now, the Department of Government Efficiency was his and Vivek Ramaswamy's brainchild. Is that the term you call it? I don't really like that term, brainchild. Maybe it's because I wasn't a brainy child. Who knows? But Vivek left because I think he is going to be pursuing gubernatorial campaign. And then Elon Musk's, his Department of Government Efficiency, he recruited multiple industry leaders and members, as well as younger, shall we say, brilliant minds to look at where there is waste, fraud, and abuse. From what I understand, Doge was supposed to only last till July 4th. Now, here we are in April, and we're being told that Elon Musk is going to be possibly stepping down now. Not because he's fighting with Trump, but because allegedly he needs to get back to his businesses, which was, I think, a question many of us had. When we were told that Elon Musk was going to be running these, the first thing we were asking is, well, who's running SpaceX? Who's running Tesla? When the cat's away, the mouse is out to play. And the reason why SpaceX was able to jump to the call of our administration to go and save those stranded astronauts, and the reason why, these companies are able to do what they're able to do is because of good management. And so when the leader is going to be gone and in Washington and doing a formidable task as finding all the waste, fraud, and abuse, who's running things? And now you have these lunatics trying to terrorize Tesla owners, which makes no sense. And people are going to say, oh, yay, we won. We got him to leave Doge. You see, we have to be violent. We have to be vandals. We have to do domestic terrorism. I wasn't really expecting, to be honest, Elon Musk being as hands-on as he was. But then again, that's what a good, strong business leader does. They don't just delegate and go off to the Bahamas. And so Elon Musk looks like was doing interviews, was at the White House, was meeting with the CIA, and he was, hands-on. And I was surprised actually at how much hands-on. And the big question we all had is, well, who's running his businesses and is he going to be comfortable with that? And so not a surprise. From what I understand, Doge would still exist. This is being reported by multiple outlets, but the one I'm reading here is Daily Mail, where President Donald Trump has told his cabinet inner circle that Elon Musk is stepping back, and he will return to his Tesla SpaceX duties. According to Politico, Tesla stocks are just skyrocketing now, and that this was a joint decision between Trump and he. He remains happy with Musk's work and the Department of Government Efficiency. But interesting, if you've kind of seen what's been going on, there was this machete. Wasn't Elon Musk standing there with a chainsaw as it pertained to jobs and cutting waste? Well, it was perceived that he was using that to show how he's cutting jobs. And the job loss is not a very popular part of this. We understand we need to shrink the government, and we understand Biden's massive hiring, is eventually going to be reversed by any president that wants to minimize government and not expand it. But some of his moves were not very popular, and we heard in the news that rather than machete, he was going to use scalpel precision. So you could see there was already a little bit of let's maybe evaluate this. So knowing that there's going to be a lot of federal government jobs cut for restructuring and to eliminate waste, I think the American people are on board with that. But what was a complete cluster in a seventh was And I'm honest with you guys. This isn't a Republican or Democrat show. This is just what I see. All right. As a doctor, as a mom, as an American, you can't offer a buyout to some. They, people not take it because they want to be on site, not working remotely, want to be loyal to the job, want to keep their job, and then they get fired anyway, having a less sweet deal than those who were working from home. It just was, it was chaotic. And I don't like chaos. And I get the government needs a lot of cleanup. And boy, did Elon and his team find a lot of ways. That team is going to keep working. But a big question people have had is, how is Doge going to be done by July 4th? This is a tall order. Well, you would think in 6 months they could find all the waste, fraud, and abuse. But apparently, the deeper they look, the more they see. And so when does Elon leave? When does he delegate? When does he? I mean, he set the framework. He's been there for 2.5 months. And boy, was he hands-on. Going back to Tesla and SpaceX, he still has a good relationship with the president. So the president needs him to rescue any other astronauts. I'm sure Elon Musk will. But I think it is time for Elon Musk to take care of his other businesses and ensure that somebody else is doing the work that Doge needs to. If there is a framework and a protocol and a plan on look at this and see where there's waste, fraud, and abuse, see where we could cut, talk to your department heads, etc. Elon Musk shouldn't be the one cutting the HHS jobs or the DOD jobs or the DOE jobs. That should be the department heads. Pete Hegseth should be running the Pentagon. Patel should be running, FBI. So I think if Elon Musk established a framework, he doesn't have to be there. And so maybe this is a good thing for him. It's a good thing for Tesla. It's a good thing for stockholders. And it might be a good thing for Trump. Also, we knew that relationship wasn't going to last too long in terms of there being, where people are looking at Elon Musk more than they see J.D. Vance. Trump needs J.D. Vance to be in front of the camera. Trump needs J.D. Vance to get a lot of the media because J.D. Vance has to be the one that runs in 2028. So, again, this has not been officially confirmed, but this is what multiple media outlets are reporting, that Elon Musk will be stepping down from Doge. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians, only now available to you too. totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So late last night, I learned the news that Val Kilmer, one of my favorite actors, especially from the 80s. I remember him in Top Secret, Top Gun, Tombstone, Batman, Forever, died at the age of 65. And he struggled. The cause of death was supposedly pneumonia, but we had witnessed him struggle with late-stage throat cancer for years. And he battled it fairly successfly. Many individuals with throat cancer don't make it as long as he did. And so God's, at the grace of God, he was able to get treatment. He had to get a trach put in. He actually was very quiet and secretive about it. I don't blame him. And I think Michael Douglas, during an interview, accidentally spilled the beans because people wanted to know what was going on. They saw the scar on the neck, and we ended up finding out that he had throat cancer. And then he made a cameo. He had a cameo on the latest Top Gun movie, and you could see he had difficulty speaking. And they didn't try to hide anything, but the gorgeous, so versatile, very talented actor that we all know Val Kilmer to be. It's a huge loss seeing him go. So I believe his daughter had shared the news. He did a great job in The Doors. I remember seeing that as well, where he portrayed Jim Morrison. But he passed away last night in Los Angeles, surrounded by family and friends. His daughter, Mercedes Kilmer, told the Associated Press that he died of pneumonia. Now, he did recover after his 2014 throat cancer diagnosis, but he required 2 tracheotomies, which basically help allow him to breathe. It bypasses the pharynx and goes right to the trachea, so that there's a port and it's where air can then. If sometimes we feel like let's say your throat is closing up due to anaphylaxis or a huge allergy, and we can't, or you have a mass and we cannot get access to maintain your airway, we will sometimes go in and perform a tracheotomy. So he had 2 tracheotomies, from what we understand, as he was going through his throat cancer. And why that happens is because, 1, there's the mass, 2, there's the swelling that ensues with treatment. So they had to maintain an airway for him. And he was pretty gifted. I think he went to Juilliard School, a very prestigious school for acting. And, when you see, him in Tombstone, when you saw his great work, there is no wonder. And I think he was probably one of the most underappreciated actors. He didn't have a lot of lead roles until, Batman, being the sidekick of Top Gun, but so iconic. And he was Iceman. And you don't realize how talented he is when obviously he's overshadowed by Tom Cruise, being the lead in that movie, and then Kurt Russell in Tombstone and all but him playing Doc Holliday, probably one of his most iconic roles. Now, throat cancer. He didn't necessarily die of throat cancer. He died of pneumonia. But when you do have to have, massive amounts of chemo or radiation or treatment, and you do not have the normal anatomy that you were born with after you had to have the surgery and the changes, a big risk factor for cancer survivors is pneumonia. And pneumonia is where you get an infection in one of the lobes of the lung. People mix it up with bronchitis. Bronchitis are your bronchioles. It's like the tree branches that go to the lungs. Bronchitis, they get inflamed. The majority of bronchitis cases are viral. Pneumonia is where the lobe of the lung gets involved. And you could have multiple lobes involved, or you could have a single lobe involved. And when a lobe of the lung gets infected or inflamed, whether it's a virus, whether it's a bacteria, whether it's a fungus, you lose the ability to exchange oxygen. And pneumonia is deadly. we've really had a lackadaisical attitude about pneumonia once we started treating pneumonia at home with antibiotics such as Z-Paks for walking pneumonia. I'm very grateful to Pfizer for coming up with these medications and how now we don't have to admit you all the time to the hospital with pneumonia. We could treat pneumonia at home. But parents are calling up going, yeah, my kid's got pneumonia, so send me an antibiotic, send me some amoxicillin. I'm like, whoa, your child has pneumonia? What's their, what side, right, left, which lobe? What's their oxygen status? Well, they have a cough and grandpa had pneumonia, so my kid has pneumonia. For the love of God, please get your child checked out. Most telemedicine companies will not treat pneumonia online. You got to get looked at. The pneumonia can kill. And I'm very humbled by it. You know, having patients who would come into the ER, we would diagnose them with pneumonia, we would admit them, and many of them would be dead that night. You know, because the average person doesn't come into the ER at the very earliest, minute, stages of pneumonia. They come in because they're like, I can't breathe. Well, by then, we have our work cut out for us. And there's only so much we could do to try to preserve your lung function, preserve your oxygenation. And it's frightening. The throat cancer is also frightening. Having had friends with throat cancer, this is something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. And I think the average number of cases a year that get diagnosed, but I think it's very underdiagnosed, is about 12,000, almost about 13,000 a year. Now, men are more likely to get it than women. And men are also more likely to die. We average about 4,000 people a year dying of laryngeal cancer. And throat cancer can involve multiple parts. It could be the nasopharynx, the nose and the upper part of the pharynx, the oropharynx, the hypopharynx, the lower part of the throat, the pharynx is throat. And the symptoms of it oftentimes are misconstrued as, oh, okay, yeah, I just got a sore throat, I got strep. Michael Douglas had throat cancer, and his original doctors allegedly diagnosed him with strep, gave him some antibiotics. He didn't get better. And then months went by until they finally found out he had throat cancer. So signs of throat cancer is a chronic or a recurrent sore throat, hoarseness to the voice, changes in your voiceness, chronic cough, difficulty swallowing. You might feel lymph nodes or lumps in the neck. Your neck could hurt. Your ear could hurt. Weight loss. And risk factors for this: tobacco, alcohol, Epstein-Barr, the gastroesophageal reflux disease, where the acid is changing the anatomy. But a biggie is HPV, human papillomavirus. Human papillomavirus you get usually with sex. And so when men get it in their throat after performing oral sex, it can cause changes. That's why we have a vaccine for HPV that we are now urging girls and boys in their preteens and teens to get. And HPV infection of the throat, it likes the throat, it finds a place to hide out. And one of the main vectors of that is, or conduits, is oral sex with somebody who has HPV. HPV is one of the most proliferative STDs out there. It's not the most commonly diagnosed. Chlamydia still is one of the number one STDs or STIs. But HPV is more common. It just isn't picked up. We aren't screening everybody. And so, women used to go in for pap smears every year. We used to screen for HPV. Now we do testing less often. But what we have to remind people is now that we're testing and we're screening for cervical cancer, because HPV is behind most cases of cervical cancer, now that we're screening less and less often, and now that we're seeing patients much more infrequently, if at all, we need to remind people that if you are going to have somebody, shall we say, engage in oral sex without protection, like a dam or whatever they use for protection these days, they could be at risk for HPV and then get throat cancer. And it's very, very scary, and it's very concerning, and it doesn't get diagnosed early on. It gets diagnosed oftentimes late stage because people always blame their sore throat on something else. And I suspect throat cancer cases are going to skyrocket because fewer people are being told they have HPV, so then they can't tell their partner because fewer people are screening. There's more acid reflux now that people are eating spicier and bigger meals. And oftentimes people are just going online to get treated for their sore throats and not getting an exam. 1-877 Doc Daliah. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Doc Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. Yesterday was April Fool's Day, which is stupid. I really can't stand April Fool's Day. But today is Liberation Day. Now, this is a little bit more intriguing. Liberation Day. One thing Trump wants to do is get rid of the Internal Revenue Service and have an external revenue service instead, where rather than us paying all these taxes, let the other countries support us for a change. It's a very interesting concept. And part of that long-term goal is for us to not keep getting screwed as it pertains to tariffs. So when we import goods from other countries and they export them to us and then they charge us and tax us, Trump wants that to be reciprocal. And he says he is going to charge the same. He said he's not going to charge the exact same because people would hate us. So he'll charge less, but he's still going to charge. And he is still going to push for, especially with things like cars and copper and things like that, reciprocal tariffs. You guys might know more about all the little nuances of everything going on. But Liberation Day is supposed to signify, from what I understand, that we are not going to be screwed by other countries anymore just because we're considered a rich first world country. I think a lot of Americans like that. Now, what they might not like is prices going up. So if we are going to be tacking on tariffs of things that are being imported into America or exported to, then these other countries are going to do it the same. And we're going to start getting these trade wars. Now, Trump told us during his address to Congress to be patient, where it is going to be bumpy in the beginning, but long term, if we could get over this, we are going to preserve, right, this made in America. We're going to bring more companies to America. We're going to then eventually lower prices. And the logic is sound. It's going to be bumpy in the beginning. And that's what we kind of talked about, earlier this week, whereas it pertains to climate change, people are like, look, okay, it's going to be bumpy. We're going to have to pay for solar panels, or we're going to have to switch our gas grill to electric, or we're going to have to buy a Tesla. And people were saying, look, it's going to hurt our pockets, but for the globe and for fixing it's going to be worth it in the long run. Just interesting to me where that thinking for those with climate change don't seem to follow as it pertains to the economy. But, I get it. It's whoever the president is, and then the attitudes change. But from what we understand, I believe there's going to be it's 20% on China goods, 25 on Mexico and Canada. Goods from Mexico and Canada. It's not all goods, but we're going to be getting more and more information today when he talks about these reciprocal tariffs, which could vary country by country. White House aides have drafted some plans to possibly tack on 20% of nearly all imports. Now, this, again, the purpose of this, and I'm no economist, but the purpose of this is to get these companies to build it. We are buying things from other companies, and it's a vulnerability we have. Like with our medications and pharmaceuticals, I can't stand the fact that a lot of our medicines are coming out of China, especially after what happened with COVID, and especially since things are starting to get a little heated with them. Why aren't the majority of our generics here? Also, a lot of our generics are made in Mexico. Why? Why isn't America making their own drugs? Why don't we have a better infrastructure for that? But we have relationships with other countries. I get that. And building this vulnerability to show, look, we need you, you need us, we're partners, isn't the way that Trump wants to run things. He doesn't want us vulnerable. And we are very vulnerable. And I think bipartisanly, everybody could agree on that. How to deal with that vulnerability is more controversial and split among party lines. But I think it is ridiculous that another country is charging us more than we charge them. Yeah, that's not cool. I mean, there should be incentives for us to do business with these other countries, not us getting spanked. But they do that because we have built this and put ourselves in a position where we're now vulnerable, and we need these other countries for their cars, etc. Isn't that like China and India, some of the biggest manufacturers of a lot of the things that we use? Well, why aren't we doing that? I mean, we have the greatest country on the planet. Why aren't we doing most of our car manufacturing here? Why aren't we doing most of our chips and our... And another thing, too, is a lot of Americans don't want, from what has been alleged, where kids and human slaves are building a lot of the supplies and things we use here. Now, I get it. It would probably be even more expensive. The argument people have is, well, if we get the medications from China, they're cheaper. If we get the cars from China, they're cheaper. If you get your iPhone, if they were made in China, they're cheaper. Look at how many things are being sold in America on Amazon from China. The clothes are cheaper. All these things are cheaper. So Americans are like, well, it's cheaper than I love China. We're best friends. Okay, well, what happens when American companies lose out to China and lose out to these? And then in a matter of a decade, China now has us by the eyelashes, let's just say. This is the long-term plan. The long-term plan of these other countries is we rely on them. They figure out how to manufacture things cheaper. They undercut pricing so that our American companies are screwed. And so, and then all of a sudden those companies go under, and we are more and more reliant on these other companies. I mean, all you keep hearing is how drugs are so much more expensive in America. And people are like, well, I'm going to Canada to get my medication. I'm going to go to Mexico to get my medication. I'm going to China. Okay, well, that's something that needs to be fixed. We don't want you going to China for your medication. Okay? We want you staying here. So this Liberation Day is Trump, one thing that I think we could all give Trump is he does know how to make money. He does know how to succeed in the business world. He might not be the most, shall we say, personable. And if he thinks we're getting screwed, he's going to turn the screws on other countries. And that's kind of what Liberation Day is. Is it going to free us eventually from being reliant on these other countries? Is it going to eventually drive down costs? I think what Target's going to do is if some of their inputted goods from China are going up in price, they're asking China to offset that, or they won't buy from China. Well, so we're already starting to see that come to play. Okay, why do we have these big box stores buying things from China? And maybe it'll also change the way we are buying things. I know I wear a lot of rewears. This is probably maybe the 6th time I've worn this blouse. And I bought this blouse a few years ago. Who cares if I'm re-wearing it? I don't have to have a new piece of clothing every day and throw it out. Okay, we could rewear clothes. We could do that. And I think consumers are already looking at how we've been spending. And they're like, look at what happened with working remotely. You could wear the same pair of sweatpants or pajamas. You don't necessarily need to dress up and wear something different every day. That's what I love about these schools with uniforms. You know how much money we're saving? I remember going to school. If I re-wore a shirt twice in 1 month, people would bully me. So it's going to be bumpy. But I think in the long run, it's going to make us more independent, and it is going to bring down cost. 1-877-Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. So have you ever been out of the country and got sick and had to go to one of their urgent cares or hospitals? The majority of you probably haven't. I hope you haven't. It's not easy. Neil writes, I have a friend who just retired and turned 66. He's going to Mexico. He said, is there any way I could send him a recording of your story about your husband needing health care in Mexico? So I'm not sure which segment that was, but Neil, I'll answer that now. So my husband lived in Mexico in the 90s for a short period of time to teach scuba diving after college. And he gets into a car accident. And when he goes into the hospital, they wouldn't even start treating him until he emptied out his pockets. Now, I don't know if the shakedown still happens today, I was in Israel and I got sick, really sick, of bronchitis or pneumonia, had to go to a local clinic. It cost me about $30 in the 90s. And the antibiotics were about $5. But they took care of me. It was great. It was nice. And so depending on where you're at, you could have a fairly benign experience or it could be extremely costly. Now, one thing we advocate when we're telling patients, who may be, on vacation and concerned that they may have a medical issue, is to maybe get travel insurance and travel medical insurance. That is an option. Now, you'll see online, like let's say you're going to Mexico. They'll say that the average doctor visit in Mexico is about $20. If you go to the ER, it's about $18 to $25. I would use that with a grain of salt. What I'm hearing is it varies. And because it's not America, this is Mexico, you really don't have a lot of, shall we say, bureaucracy to be able to complain to. They could take one look at you and say $500, $150. You need to pay now. And so I'm getting calls from people to the telemedicine company I work for. Now, we can't really treat you overseas. You're overseas. We're not licensed there. But they're saying to go into a place where we don't, a lot of people have apprehension about some of the hospitals in other countries because they are concerned that they don't have the same OSHA requirements, CLIA lab requirements. They don't have the same oversight. That is a concern. Now, I have had friends who have been treated out of the country and treated well, and they didn't get an infection and they were fine. But what I always recommend is try not to get sick. Try not to get into an accident. See, when I go on vacation, I do things that I don't normally do at home. Like I, did some rock climbing, this weekend. Well, that, I might, windsurf, or I might be doing things that I don't usually do at home because I'm on vacation. Well, you have to understand you can't sustain then certain injuries. What if you get bit by something or stung or, God forbid you need medical care, get the medical care you need. And these countries, do have the ability to save your life, but it can be fairly expensive. Now, many people say, well, travel insurance, you're spending money for insurance. Insurance companies are scams. Here's the thing. It's a scam if you don't need it. You lose the money, but it's worth it. And it's a scam if you do end up using it and they say, well, the small print says we don't cover this or we don't cover that. Because a lot of the travel insurance isn't covering COVID. So let's say you get COVID and you have to cancel your trip. Most travel insurance will not then cover your flight. Or so some people say, well, then it's a scam. A scam is if they don't do their job and they don't pay when they're supposed to pay. And they try to use semantics with, well, you're a Gemini and, we put in, the fine lines that you can't be a Gemini or whatever. That's more of a scam. You lose the money, if you weren't sick. That's how insurance works. But if you do end up getting sick or needing the insurance, it's worth it. So my recommendation for any of you traveling, and I understand, we're still kind of in spring break season, is if you are doing something that you don't normally do and you think you could be at risk for an injury or something happening, or you're going to be swimming in shark-infested waters or whatever, you really might want to consider getting some travel medical insurance. You also should, wherever you go, look up the local medical centers. Do the research you can. The average person doesn't do that. They'll look up where to eat. They'll look up, what hotel. They'll look up, maybe peso conversion. But do you actually look up where the nearest medical center is? how far away, how to get to it. The average American doesn't know their which medical center they can use with their insurance, locally even. But do that. And then you also might want to call and find out or look online what the prices are. Now, keep in mind, they might say, oh, it only costs $25 to walk in the door. But then, but then you met with the doctor, and there's a fee for that. Then the nurse triaged you. There's a fee for that. We had to use a bandage. So, yes, very easily, there could be uncontrollable costs. But do your research. Now, what some people do is if they think, you know what, I always get a UTI when I travel, or I always get a sinus infection, or I cut myself and I feel like I need an antibiotic, one option you have is to talk to your medical provider and say, look, I'm going to be traveling overseas. I'm going to be gone for, a week or two. What happens if I get X, Y, and Z? Now, years ago, I would give Bactrim. Bactrim would handle sinus infections, would handle staph skin infections, would handle UTIs. We don't really do that anymore because of antibiotic overprescribing. And we don't want people, getting antibiotics and using them if they don't have a bacterial infection. But some medical providers are still comfortable with that, where if they say, look, don't use it, and bring it back, bring the prescription back, show me you didn't use it and didn't waste it, or keep it for a rainy day if you didn't need it. That's sometimes another option to prevent you from needing to go. When I travel, I always bring some extra, because my kids will get pink eye. So I would bring some pink eye drops. I don't have to do that now because they're older. I would bring bandages. I would bring Neosporin. I would bring things so I could clean wounds. I would even bring, I had extra Dermabond, which was a glue. Now, mind you, I'm a doctor. So I'm like, okay, well, I can take care of them myself. And I'm not saying, guys, go get Dermabond. It's expensive as heck. And we don't want you doing it yourself. But I pack my own ibuprofen. I pack Tylenol. If I get a migraine, I have my Excedrin migraine, so I don't necessarily have to go to a medical center. So those are some options. If you get car sick or you get altitude sickness, there's medications to prevent that. But the big issue we have is most people don't have a medical provider. So patients would come in, see me, saying, I'm going on a trip. Well, make sure I'm good, make sure I'm healthy. What should I do if I get sick? And then I'd say, well, find the local urgent care. You might want to look that up ahead of time, etc. But if you don't have a regular doctor, then, you're going to be, just kind of at the mercy of a foreign country and their clinics. Do your research, understand it could be expensive, and if you think you're going to need medical help, get travel insurance with the medical riders on there. So at least you're not going to be up a creek. But it's a really, really good question. And enjoy your trip. Have safe travels. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.